What is up, Mizzou fans? Welcome back in to yet another Show Me Football post-game show for your Missouri Tigers, our first of the year, as the Missouri Tigers cruise past the Murray State Racers 51-0 to start the season 1-0. Braden and I are here to break it down. Noted Brett Sarver enthusiast, or does that say euthanist? Oh my God. No, we're going after Brett Sarver now. I hope
What? Oh
Brett
no,
Sarver's safe.
it's 1 a.m. I meant to put enthusiast.
Oh my
Enthusiast.
God. I was gonna say, are we euthanizing Brett Sarver? Oh my God. But I guess we have a noted Brett Sarver enthusiast, is what you
Yes,
meant to say.
enthusiast.
Anyway, Braden, starting off on a great note. What were your initial thoughts on the game? I know you were there. I should mention Braden was there tonight. There's not too much to take away from this game, so instead of asking you about the game first, I just wanted to ask how the drone show was in person.
It was definitely pretty cool. I've seen all the drone shows that have been at Kauffman Stadium this year and the years prior. Those are always a little interesting. Those are fun. This drone show, I mean, it was very Mizzou oriented. I'm sure you saw pictures. It was fun.
Yeah.
It was cool. Not really too much to it. It went along with what the band was doing, and it added another level to that. So that was fun. Tonight was the first time that I ever sat on the side where you actually get to see the Tiger logo facing the right way. I've either always been in the upper deck on the other level in the student section or just somewhere over there. But with the season tickets that me and my dad got for this year, we were on the opposite side, where most of the season ticket holders are, and right below the press box. It was a pretty fun experience. Didn't have to deal with the sun too much. Still absolutely exhausted from it, as it is 1:10 in the morning as we're recording this right now. Just got back about 30 minutes ago, and it was a fun game. Didn't have to deal with the sun too much where we were, luckily. Mizzou kicked the shit out of them. We covered the spread, which cost me $5.
I was gonna say, good teams win, but great teams cover the spread. That's what
We
Missouri
left
did.
in the third quarter. Otherwise, I'd probably still be driving right now. So I didn't get to see any of the fourth quarter, but I do know that we sent the offense back out onto the field on fourth down.
Yep.
When we were up by 48, and then somebody false started, and then Drink just settled for the field goal instead, which covered the spread. And I was really hoping Murray State got the stop because I had $5 on them plus 50 because I just didn't think. You know me. I'm always going to bet against Mizzou so I don't get hurt. Ended up losing $5 on that. I made my money back in many other places. I don't have too many thoughts outside of the actual game. Just the experience at the stadium was pretty nice this weekend, or today. It's not the weekend, it's Thursday. And
feels like the weekend.
It's a standard trip down to Como, where you're going to win, but crowd was very into it. Tiger stripes were very apparent, and it's good that we can have over 60,000 people show up for a game where we know that we're going to win by more than 40.
Yeah, it was nice to see a sellout. It's just I love it for the players. I want for them to play in front of a big crowd and feel like every game means something. And Mizzou fans definitely made it feel like it means something to them tonight. And of course, more people started to leave as the second half progressed. And
the student section was in full deer hunting season by the start of the second half. Like after the drone show, half the stadium was gone.
Yeah, and that's expected. But it was nice to see everyone show up, and they said, hey, or Coach Drinkwitz challenged them, and they said, hey, we accept the challenge. We sold out the game. And now we're going to go drink in the parking lot because the game is pretty much over.
Drinkwitz gave everybody their props. He commented on Twitter saying that everybody showed up, and he was happy to see the crowd, which, that's what you want to hear out of your head coach is he asked you to show up. We show up. And then he's like, all right, thank you. Like, pretty simple. And he delivered a strong performance that should get us another sellout next week. I don't know if the Buffalo game's sold out yet, but I hope it gets to that point.
Yeah, that should be a fun one too, because that's actually on a Saturday next week, and it should be good weather. It should be an easy win. Like, go out there on a Saturday, watch some Mizzou football. And we only get to watch this group so many times this year at home.
Yeah.
So you want to take advantage of that. I mean, this is a top 10 team essentially right now. I want to get into the game, though, of course. So Mizzou really ended the game after 5 minutes. I think they scored like 3 times in a 6-minute span with one of those.
They scored 3 times
touchdowns.
in 5 minutes and 22 seconds.
There you have it from Braden. That's the official time. 3 times in 5 minutes and 22 seconds. And one of those was a defensive touchdown from Toriano Pride, the transfer cornerback. That was a great play. He jumped right on that route. He saw it way before it was coming. What I really love about this game, too, is a lot of the big playmakers tonight were the transfers that Mizzou brought in over the offseason. Like Chris McClellan, the defensive tackle, forced a fumble on defense. You saw Toriano Pride forced a turnover on defense with that interception. Nate Noel and Marcus Carroll, the running backs, looked absolutely stellar. I thought the offensive line looked pretty good. I know Caden Green had a couple penalties tonight, but that's to be expected in the first game. It's to be expected at the beginning of the season. And I know we all have high expectations for a guy like Caden Green, but we should remember that he is a true sophomore that only started 5 games last year. I think he played in 7 total. So, he's still coming along. But I love to see all the transfers that we brought in making plays. Mizzou's already getting a huge return on investment on a lot of the transfers that they brought in this offseason. I'm not sure if you have anything to add to that.
In terms of the names that you didn't
Corey
mention,
Flagg, too. I should say he looked awesome.
Exactly what I was going to say. Corey Flagg was a dog tonight. He is a heat-seeking missile. He was flying all over the field. He was fantastic at tackling. He was by far the player that I recognized the most on the defensive side of the ball. Marvin Burks, also the guy that I said that I chose as my defensive breakout player. I saw him make a few really nice plays and make some really solid stops and solid tackles. You have to take a lot of this into account that we are playing a 3-9 FCS school from last year. So this team is not good. Like, Murray State is terrible. But at the same time, I don't care who you're playing. I don't care if we're playing an NAIA school. Holding your opponent to only 85 yards is insane.
They averaged 1.7 yards per play
down on the entire night when your defense on the last drive of the game was 10 freshmen. I do not care who you're playing. You have 10 freshmen going up against an FCS level opponent, and they only get 5 first downs the entire game. That is a testament to what Corey Batoon has already established here. And like we said in the pregame, we just wanted to see some sort of life from this defense. And I think we saw more than that. Like, this defense was on another level. Again, FCS school, take a lot of that into account, but Murray State could not move the ball whatsoever.
Well, and like you said, this is an FCS school. This is an FCS school that was terrible last year. They fired their head coach. This is a brand new head coach on the sidelines for them this year. And that's why they opened the game with an onside kick, too, is because they know what type of game this is, and they're just taking all the risks, right?
Yeah, and I would like to commend Murray State for that.
Yes.
Like, they left everything out on the field until, like, they knew that it was over, and that was within the first 5 minutes. But they tried their hardest. Like, they did not give a fuck. They went out there, and they said, we're going to give it literally everything that we can. We are going to try everything, throw everything that we can against the wall. It didn't work, but I do commend their coaching staff and all their players for giving that effort in that time frame, because you don't see a lot of FCS schools even try to do that.
For sure. I agree 100%. But what I was saying right before that, so someone said this on Power Mizzou as I was scrolling through the game thread that they had going, and they said, I know Murray State is horrible, but you can, I don't care. You can still tell that there are some dudes on this defense. And I agreed with what that person had to say because, I mean, there was 0 lapses tonight too. And I should also point that out. And it's like, well, it's Murray State, blah, blah, blah. But I mean, even last year playing against South Dakota, I remember them getting, and of course, South Dakota is a lot better than Murray State. But the point I'm trying to make here is that, I mean, there was no like big busted coverage, or which usually does happen at least one time against even these FCS schools. Like, but there was none of that tonight. None of it at all. Like Corey Batoon's defense played it very safe. The guys didn't look lost in coverage at any point. They looked like a cohesive unit. They did not look like a unit that has never played together and hasn't played a real game in 8 months. Like they looked on top of it. And Corey Batoon also really wanted to emphasize creating more turnovers this year, which is something last year's Blake Baker defense didn't do a ton. They forced 2 of them tonight. And I mean, like, I'll reiterate, yes, this is Murray State. Yes, they're terrible. But I loved what I saw from this Mizzou defense tonight. I think the depth across the board, I think a lot of us underrate how much depth they had because it was just filled with so many question marks and so many younger players. But I mean, Marvin Burks was flying around out there tonight. Zion Young, on the Toriano Pride interception, was the one that forced that throw because of the pressure that he put on. Khalil Jacobs, the South Alabama transfer, made a bunch of plays tonight. I remember him shooting the gaps a couple times. And yeah, you just look around, and I feel very comfortable about this defense after week 1, regardless of opponent.
Yeah, Corey Batoon did a fantastic job. Buffalo is going to be at least a little bit of a more difficult opponent. They played an FCS school tonight, and they won like 30-16, and it was a little bit of a fight for them. Buffalo is not that great of a school, and you should expect to beat them by more than 35. But at the same time, they are at least a little bit better of an opponent. I'll be curious to see if we're able to shut them out as well, and if we are able to keep this trend of just not allowing teams to move the ball offensively at all. And like, I couldn't even tell you what Murray State's longest play tonight was, because every single time that I looked up, it was 3rd down. Like, I asked my dad multiple times tonight, I'm like, it's already 3rd down. Like, what was 1st down? Where was 2nd? Like, you could look away for half a second and Mizzou makes a tackle. And then just because of Murray State's pace of play and how fast tempo they were trying to go, it was 3rd down before you knew it. And then it was 4th down.
They had less than 100 yards of total offense. Yeah. They only had 85 yards of total 85 offense. Yards again, of total
offense. Again, I do not care if you're playing an NAIA school.
Yeah.
That is impressive.
Yeah. 1.7 yards per play is what they averaged tonight. Mm-hmm. And Mizzou stopped the run fairly easily. They got in the backfield a ton, looked very similar to last year's defense, the defensive line. Oh, another thing I should mention too. They did not they hardly blitzed at all tonight as well. Like, I did not notice.
Yeah, we did not send pressure. It was nothing but 4-man rush.
Yep.
Like, we were playing the most basic cover 2, cover 3 shells. Like, we didn't do anything special defensively. Mm-hmm. It was nothing. It was just guys spot dropping or just standing in their zones and making really good plays.
Yep, made all the right reads. Again, no really busted coverages or anything like that. The only point in the game where there was a moment where it looked like Murray State might do something, there was a deep throw where the receiver got tripped up running with a couple of Mizzou defenders, and it almost looked like we could have gotten called for a flag there for pass interference.
Yeah, and I know exactly what you're talking about. He tripped over himself. Like, there was contact by, I think it was Charleston or Burks, and Pride was back there as well. I
think Burks was definitely one of them. Yeah, now that I remember, Burks was one of them.
Burks and Pride. I think it was Burks that made at least a little bit of contact, but I'm like 99% sure the ref was just like, okay, that guy just tripped over himself. And then Burks dropped the interception, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah. And that was the only point where it looked like Murray State was going to do anything.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So defense was fantastic.
Like when Murray State's biggest play is a missed PI call, that says it all.
Yeah, I think the defense looked great tonight. We'll see more of them as time goes on, and as the competition increases, we'll really get more of a true test for them, and we'll see what it looks like. But very promising signs tonight, and I think they looked even better than they did even starting last year against South
Yeah.
Dakota. This game really, week one as a whole is just a stark contrast from last year, because there was even moments in that South Dakota game we talked about it in our preview where it's like, hold on a second, like, is South Dakota making this interesting? This game was over after 5 minutes, and this is a good segue into the offense, because some people are going to be like, oh man, but that lull in the second quarter, the game was over already.
Yeah, like I don't care too much about the trick play. And Kirby Moore and Drink talked about it in the press conference after the game, where Drink was just like, "Come on, dude!" You like just pushing him, twisting his arm, being like, "Hey, like let's just run this play just for the hell of it, just for fun." And
even that 2-point conversion, or not the 2-point conversion, the fourth down that they were going to try to go for at the end, that was literally just Drink giving fan service because the student section wanted them to go.
The student section was chanting, "Go for it, go for it," and then Drink called a timeout, and then shit hit the fan. But the fumble in the second quarter, I don't really care too much about it. It was a miscommunication. Just shit happened. They were out there having fun at that point because we were already up 28-0. But at the same time, the biggest thing, and I think a lot of people have already talked about it on Twitter, I'm going to add to it as well. Brady Cook deep balls were not good tonight. There was 2 to Marquise Johnson that he just missed where he really should have hit them. And those are throws that you have to be able to hit if you are a graduate senior in the SEC and we want to make it to the college football playoffs and maybe win a game or two. Those are the kind of throws that Brady Cook is going to have to make if we want to be able to do that. You can chalk it up as he's getting the rust off right now. But 19 for 30, 218 yards and a touchdown. Not the most impressive stat line, especially when we had just such good starting field position because of Murray State's aggressiveness. He missed a really easy play action throw to Brett Norfleet, who was right in front of him. He didn't look like he had that much zip on the ball. When he was throwing it to the outside, it just looked like it took forever for the ball to get there. Not to rip on Brady Cook too much because I do really appreciate what he did for the university last year because he balled the fuck out. But tonight wasn't his sharpest night. So that's something that I'm going to be at least a little bit worrisome of in the Buffalo game. Anybody calling for his job because Drew Pine was good needs to shut up. Drew Pine, on the other hand,
look good.
Was really good. He went, I think it was
looked
10,
very accurate. 10
of 11 for 82 yards. Like he did his job. That is exactly what you want in a backup quarterback. Me and my dad were, when we were sitting there, also were surprised by just how small he looks on the field. Dude cannot be taller than 5'10" or 5'11" because he is really tiny, but he got the job done. If he has to come into games later in the season this year, I don't think that'll be too worried. You obviously want Brady Cook out there because of what he's done and the track record that he has. But if it so happens that Brady Cook goes down for half of a game and we're playing South Carolina or Mississippi State or Vandy or just something happens against a mid-level SEC team, I would feel pretty confident in Drew Pine's ability.
So on Brady Cook, what I'll say, he's never had a great deep ball. Even last year, the deep ball was not like that consistent. Now, this sounds like kind of a poor excuse for him because you want him to improve from year to year. But even last year against South Dakota and MTSU in those first couple games, it's like, hold the hell line. Can Brady Cook play football? What's going on here? So I think it is a little bit of knocking off the rust. Also, and this might just be me trying to find something, but watching on the broadcast, Brady Cook looked noticeably bigger this year. His torso looks bigger, his shoulders look bigger. He just looks bigger and stronger this year. and maybe his body is just getting used to, that throwing motion a little bit with the added strength from the offseason, because he definitely airmailed a couple of those balls. So the arm
Which was
strength is
never
not
the issue before. It was always him underthrowing it.
Yeah, so the arm strength is not really the issue. It's just the accuracy part.
Yeah.
So hopefully he settles in. I think he will. We're going to need to hit more of those, especially when you get into conference play. You're not going to be able to get away with not getting all of them, because he doesn't need to get all of them, but you can't miss all of them. You have to get a couple of them, especially to Marquise Johnson. I mean, especially that first missed one, it's like, damn, he really did him a disservice with that throw.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not too concerned with Brady Cook or anything like that. Other than that, he really played that game manager role. I really thought he had great command in the first half. When we went on that big run at the beginning of the game, I mean, we marched down the field. He looked like he had command of the offense. He looked like a veteran. And I also think a few times there was also a little bit of a miscommunication, because Drinkwitz talked about this after the game, how they're getting used to the new headsets. And there were a couple times where Brady Cook said that he could not hear Drinkwitz with the headset, or Kirby Moore with the headset. He couldn't hear the play call. And there was miscommunication a couple of times. Brady Cook was fine, though. Nothing spectacular, but he'll be all right. Not too worried. There's another note that I was going to say about the offense, but I forgot. I'm sure it'll come back to mind. But while I'm waiting
running
for that
backs,
to come back, yeah, I'll talk about them. They looked great. Love Nate. You can tell he's fast as hell. He also gets the tough yards too. I
like Carroll more based off of tonight. Like, I really liked how Carroll ran.
And I I totally understand that too. Like, I remember watching, and I'm like, all right, Nate Noel looks really good, but really want to see Marcus Carroll. Marcus Carroll got the next series, and then he just barreled through a couple of dudes like it was nothing.
Like, Carroll looks a lot like Schrader in a lot of ways. Like, his ability to just run through a guy's face and just seeks out that contact while also having a lot of speed, which is something that I think that he's better at than Cody Schrader. And it's going to be who is the next Cody Schrader for a while now, because that is going to be a season that is going to be nearly impossible for any Mizzou player to ever replicate. But I think that Nate Noel and Marcus Carroll are going to do a pretty good job supplementing what we lost with Cody Schrader.
Yeah, I thought they both looked really strong. Nate Noel is obviously going to be your home run hitter type of guy. He's going to be good for the outside zone. Marcus Carroll can run outside zone too, but he's more of your in between the tackles. We talked about that in the preview, but he's very physical. I thought Nate Noel was also surprisingly very physical. I'm just really excited for this running back room. And that's not even mentioning Kawan Lacey, the true freshman.
Yeah, true freshman who we got.
You could tell.
To go to Ole Miss, and then we
got him at the last second. Flipped him at the last second. Yeah. But he's one of those guys where it's like, okay, he's getting his first carries as a freshman here in the fourth quarter, and you can just tell off the bat, this dude is going to be a guy. Like, he's going to be a player. 5 carries for 42 yards. He averaged over 8 yards per carry. And there was he was putting spin moves on out there, evading tacklers. Like, Kewan Lacey, going to be a dude. He looked absolutely electric in the short time that he was out there. So, yeah, this running back room is absolutely stacked. And even Jamal Roberts, I mean, he had a touchdown tonight, and I didn't even mention his name yet. So, anything else you have to add to the running backs?
Not really. I don't really have too much more to add about the offense in general. I just hope that Norfleet's okay, because whenever he went down, it looked
Drink said he'll be fine.
Hard. I know Drink said that he should be all right. Same thing for Theo Weiss. I don't know what happened there, but I would assume both of them will be okay. I'm happy that there's no major injuries in this game. Blake Craig was efficient. Luke Bauer, some good punts. And my biggest issue with tonight, honestly, outside of being at least a little bit worried about Brady Cook, is the fact that Luther Burden was returning punts. Like, no reason for him to be out there.
After a while, they did put Daniel Blood back there instead, which was a smart decision. I think so. Gabe, I had a little mini theory about why Luther Burden was back there to return punts, and it's because Mizzou's trying to like Heisman campaign for him, and for him to have a better chance at the Heisman, you want him to have like a couple big returns or a return touchdown, because that just kind of like adds to the awards resume. And
Yeah.
I guess I kind of understand it, but this is a mental note that I took watching this game tonight. It's going to be really difficult for Luther Burden to be up for any awards this year, including all SEC. Now, I think all SEC is still the expectation. Like, of course, I'm talking about first team mainly. Like, something would have to happen. He'd have to get injured to not even make second or third team. This is more so talking about first team. But Blitnikoff, Heisman, it's going to be hard for him to get any of those just because of the sheer amount of guys we have on this offense. The skill players, because obviously the running backs are going to go.
Burden only went 3 for 39 with a touchdown, and then he had a carry for 10 yards too tonight. Like, he didn't do much because he really only played like a quarter and a half. But even in that time frame, it's like you saw us spreading the ball out to Theo Weiss, to Mookie. Well, Mookie Cooper only had one catch, and it was a 49-yarder. But we really got Joshua Manning involved in this game multiple times. I recognized him. Just either he was in motion or he was getting targeted. And I think like one of the only plays that went negative was there was a defender on Murray State who made a really good tackle on Joshua Manning, and it was like a loss of 2. But outside of that, Manning, he looks solid. I think that he can have that Marquise Johnson-like impact, be a really shifty guy that we can move around a bunch. But yeah, that was probably my biggest, like one of my bigger takeaways from the offense tonight was Joshua Manning and the amount of snaps that he got really early on.
Yeah, he's going to be a big part of the offense this year. But kind of back to what I was saying about the whole Luther Burden going up for awards, it's just there's so many guys in this offense. Like, you have the running backs, and they're going to get a lot of touches this year. There's probably going to be a game or two where the running game takes over, and Drinkwitz is just going to spend the entire second half handing it off to those guys. And then you had the receivers. I remember watching, and it's like, oh, damn, there's Mekhi Miller. You almost kind of forget we have him. And then Mookie was quiet, and then all of a sudden he explodes for that big 49-yard catch to start the second half. And you're like, oh, shit, Mookie Cooper, forgot about it. It's just like the talent is just –
we're so deep.
Unlimited. Yeah. And there's Drinkwitz is going to have to spread the ball around because, you got to keep guys happy in this offense. And so Drinkwitz is going to spread the ball around, and therefore – it's going to be kind of hard to see Luther Burden going up for any awards this year. But, yeah, the offense was fantastic. I'm super excited for them. I had no complaints about the offensive line from this game, really. There was a couple penalties, but I think they'll shake that off as things go on. Even last year, they were
Hollison snapped the ball.
I was going to say that, yeah, he didn't – no F-ups tonight snapping the ball from Connor Tollison. That's
there was one for Murray State. I thought that he transferred there.
And then Blake Craig, you kind of mentioned it earlier or touched on it, but perfect on PATs. And then he did hit a 40-yarder pretty
one thing on Craig that I remembered after the fact, he did shank one kickoff out of bounds. And that gave Murray State the ball at the 35, which can't be doing that. So hopefully that gets cleaned up. Yeah.
Although I will say, too, even with Harrison Mevis was not very good on kickoffs, because I remember he could hardly ever – it was weird because for as big of a leg as he had on kickoffs, he could never really kick it through the back of the end zone, and we allowed a couple big returns because of that. Theo Weiss, 3 catches for 30 yards. He was pretty good moving the chains tonight. Brett Norfleet obviously got injured. Drink says he'll be fine. I think they just played it safe with him. Like they said, you can't really – the only things you learn about your team in these games against FCS opponents is bad things, but I do think we actually learned a couple good things. And it was just nice to see Mizzou dominate an opponent from beginning to end, which feels like,
that's not something that we've really done the past few years in these early games.
Yeah.
Like, even whenever we beat La Tech in South Dakota in these Thursday games the last 2 years, I was at both of those. That La Tech game, there was a few points in time where you were a little bit worried about them coming back into it. You were worried about Brady Cook's inaccuracy, and I think we let up 24 against La Tech. South Dakota's they scored 10 points, and the offense just couldn't get going whatsoever. And then this game was just domination, and that's something that we really haven't got to see from a Mizzou team.
We look ready for the moment this year.
Even in the FCS game against Abilene Christian 2 years ago, like that was not something that you saw, where I think we only won that game 35-17, and at halftime the offense had only scored 10 points, and it was like 17-7. And I was sitting there in the stands for that game, and I'm like, this is pathetic, because our offense has only scored 10 points against an FCS school. And now we're at the point where we score 14 points in the first 2 minutes and then get a defensive interception, and was smooth sailing from then on out.
Yeah, hadn't really had that the last few years. We look ready for the moment. We look like a top 10 team. We took care of business. Drink was out there having fun. I mean, the coaches were having fun. The players were having fun. They took their foot off the gas after they went up big, but like, you kind of figured that was going to happen. It's just like, watching some of these games the last 2 years, you're watching and you're like, all right, can we get like one more touchdown to make this score look better? So like, I don't feel embarrassed, like trying to talk up this team on Twitter or something like that. Cause that's kind of what was happening the last couple of years, even against the FCS schools. But I'm really glad the freshmen got out there to play tonight. I'm glad we got to see Drew Pine. I know I didn't really touch on him. You did, but I didn't. I'm comfortable with him running the offense in the game if he absolutely has to. If something were to happen with Brady Cook, he did have zip on his passes, and he did look very accurate. The coaches had praised his accuracy throughout fall camp and practice. So, yeah, I mean, there's just not really anything bad to say. I'm not too worried about that second quarter lull because, again, the game was pretty much over. But this team had 489 total yards of offense tonight. They averaged 6.3 yards per play, and they were 8 of 13 on third down. I mean, there's the one stupid fumble, but I mean, they were fine.
Yeah.
So there was one more thought that I had about the offense. I can't remember. It escaped my mind whenever I was trying to talk about right before I talked about the running backs, and I really wish it would pop back into my head. I know I'm going to punch myself later when I finally remember it, but I don't want to keep you around too long, Braden. It's late as hell, and I mean, it's Murray State. Mizzou's 1-0. It's always great to start off the season 1-0. We look like a top 10 team, should be top 10 next week. So, yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. Anything else you got to say?
Go Tigers.
Yeah, now everyone can enjoy the rest of the weekend of college football, and you don't have to stress out about Mizzou anymore. The game is out of the way. So, yeah, make sure you guys
I love these Thursday games.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Make sure you guys like, share, and subscribe so more Mizzou fans can find this. You can check out more of my work on showmefootball.com. Braden, do I even need to say it? Show Me Movies. Check it out. Link will be in the description. And yeah, that'll about do it. We'll see you all in the next one. MIZ.
ZOU.